Hi. Have you ever wondered why it takes a bit of time for psychological therapy to have an effect? Typically in my practice, I would expect to see people for a number of weeks, but not a huge number, let's say between 6 and 12, for most psychological problems. Certainly panic, anxiety, depression, those kinds of things, we can generally do some really good work and even drive it to extinction. And by extinction, I mean that when people come to see me, I usually give them a questionnaire just so we can establish where they are, I use the hospital anxiety depression scale, and no matter what the score is that people have when they start, I expect to get them to what we call a cured position, which is basically a non-clinical score. And that's basically, we say, well, actually, this is not a problem. It's no longer, whatever it is, it's no longer a problem. You wouldn't get anyone to give any attention whatsoever. So the doctor would say, well, you haven't got a problem. That's where we want to be, right? It just takes time to do that. And the reason it takes time is this. Every problem that you have has elements to it, right? Every problem has components, and those components have to be dealt with individually, and that's why therapy takes a bit of time. The more components you have, the more time it takes. Now, typically, I would spend, let's say, a week on a component. So let's say if worry was a problem, I'd spend a week working, informing, teaching, educating about worry. I'd give them some worry tools. The client would go away to practice. They come back and say, yeah, I've really got the hang of this. I'm not worrying anymore. Brilliant. Let's turn to some other element of the problem. And we work through the elements. And when we finish working through the elements, there are no more elements that are troubling. And that's when we reach a point of being cured. Or the scores on the scale are below what we would call clinical significance, which is basically cured. Okay? It's very hard to do that without some structured plan to follow, which is why I developed the panic pit stop approach, the mood control approach, right? You have to have a plan. You've got to have like a program to work through. Otherwise, you don't do all of the elements. And the reason you don't do all of the elements is because you don't know what all of the elements are. It's very easy to be immersed in the problem, to be like submerged, just feeling horrible, overwhelmed with the emotions of the problem that you struggle with. It's very easy to be like that. And it's very hard to know what the elements are that create it, because you're in your problem, you're not looking at your problem. You're immersed in the problem, you're not looking at the problem from an analytical, let's say, a detective's point of view. So the Panic Pit Stop program bundle gives you the opportunity to be able to work through all of the elements of your problem without upfront knowing what they are, because the Panic Pit Stop program will take you through that. And you can systematically change, work on each one of those and change it so it's no longer an issue. And when you've done them all, you'll find that you no longer struggle with anxiety, panic, or even depression for that matter. So I'm calling this the fan approach in a sense, because it's a bit like a fan, one of those sort of Spanish fans with the spokes. And each, the way I'm thinking about it is that each element of your problem is like a spoke on the fan. Now, you've got to do all the spokes, right? You've got to do all of the issues that you have. You've got to make sure each one is dealt with. Because what happens is if you leave one that hasn't been dealt with, over a bit of time, it re-energizes the ones that you have dealt with. And then you can start to feel a bit demoralized, a bit depressed because, well, I haven't done it right, or, what's gone wrong? I thought I was working on it and I felt better, but now I feel worse, okay? So you've got to make sure you do them all. And when you do them all, you're almost guaranteed of a successful outcome. Right? That's what problem solving is. You solve the problem. You solve the elements of the problem. The entire problem is solved. So that's the fan approach. And if you want to get access to it, the best way I know to get access to it is using the Panic Pit Stop program, certainly for anxiety, panic, all of the anxiety disorders, panic, and even depression. Okay? So thanks for taking the time to watch and listen. If you want to know more about the fan approach, if you want to, discuss a little bit more about it and exactly how to access the things, how to do what you need to do, leave some comments below and we'll get a dialogue going. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.